seedless watermelons may be one of the easiest melons to eat, but it's also one of the most difficult melons to grow. If you'll remember back in March, we showed you and talked to you about some of the reasons why you really should plant seedless watermelons as transplants versus direct seeding them into the ground. And one of the main reasons for that is because the seedless melon, as it germinates, the seed will stick on the cotyledons, and sometimes that causes you to lose the seedling plant. Plus, they're a little bit harder to start directly, and they're easier really to start from transplants versus some of the other melons. So we started our plants in the greenhouse, and we had quite a bit of success. And one thing that I want to remind you of too is that we also planted another variety on each of our 2 rows here, and that's because seedless watermelons are also poor pollinizers. They don't produce a lot of pollen because they're a variety that just doesn't carry a lot of pollen. So you need to make sure that you put another variety planted next to it so you'll get better pollination. And also we're in an area where we're close to a lot of our annuals and flowers that attract a lot of bees, and so we get a little bit more bee than normal probably. But if you're really in an area where you don't have a lot of flowers to attract bees, one of the best annual herbs that you can plant next to a watermelon patch is borage, and it's an annual herb, and again it's easy to get the seed and it really attracts a bee, so it's a good thing to plant next to your watermelons. Now, even though we're calling this a seedless watermelon, you'll find that it does have seeds located in it, and what's happening is they're just not developing. Now, if it's a seedless watermelon, how did researchers get the seed to ever plant the transplants? Well, what they're doing is they're taking 2 parents and they're crossing them where that offspring will be seedless. So again, it's a hybrid. The seed are a little bit more expensive. And remember, the variety that we planted here was the super sweet 5032 was the number of that particular variety. And Twilley Seed Company actually donated the seed, and it's one of the easiest varieties to plant. Now, there's some other varieties of seedless watermelons called Jack of Hearts, King of Hearts, Honey Heart, and Sweetheart. But again, this is one of the easiest, especially for those that are trying to grow seedless watermelons for the first time. Now, we've managed to salvage a few of the watermelons from the squirrels and raccoons, so it's really time for us to harvest them. And there's many ways that people go about choosing a ripe watermelon. Some people will thump them, other people will smell them or feel the rind to see if it's smooth. Others will look at the ground spot to see what color it is. There's also ways to look at the tendrils and to see if the stem is starting to dry up. And really, researchers show that 1 out of 4 consumers really just go by chance or by luck in determining when a watermelon is ripe. Well, recently we visited with some scientists at OSU who are trying to take the guesswork out of determining when ripe fruit are ready. Well, have you ever chosen a watermelon and cut into it to find out that it wasn't ripe? Well, we've got a couple examples here today, and we've got one that looks like it's overripe. We've got one of our golden watermelons that we grew this year, as well as one down at the bottom. And joining us today is Dr. Marvin Stone with the Ag Engineering Department here at OSU. And welcome to Oklahoma Gardening, Marvin. You're going to show us a device that you're working with that's going to tell us how to choose a watermelon that's ripe. Why don't you tell us first of all how this project came about?
We're working on a fruits and vegetable project that was initiated really by Wes Watkins to help us in the southeastern part of the state develop the fruit and vegetable industry. And we knew there was quite a bit of watermelon production, and we were looking at ways in which we might help people sell our very good quality watermelons in Oklahoma.
Okay, and obviously picking the ripe ones is best for everybody. Well, tell us a little bit about your device here, what the concept and how it works.
We knew that people normally would thump melons and utilize that to detect ripeness, and we thought we could develop some kind of an electronic device to do that. We started out with ultrasound, like is used in medicine, to look inside of a human body, and that failed terribly. And we went to a simpler device that applies a tap to the melon and then listens to the vibration in the melon.
Well, let's try one, Marvin. Let's hold it up and just let the viewers listen to what that sounds like.
All right. That's
Okay.
it.
All right. Well, how does that work then as far as the device?
It has an electrically driven hammer on the inside, and it hits the face of this device and delivers the tap into the melon. And there's a crystal on the front of the device, the brass colored component, that acts like an ear, and it converts the vibration of the melon into an electrical signal that we measure with our computer and then process.
Okay. And we've previously tested these three. Show us the graphs there that you have and tell us a little bit about the interpretation, if you will.
Yes. Essentially, we have a plot of the vibration that occurred in all three of the melons, and
We noticed some difference, didn't we?
yes, we did. Certainly, the plot we have here compared to the second melon, there's a fairly significant difference, and in fact, the small melon had a very strong and long-lived vibration, which would make us think that it's not very ripe.
Okay. Versus the one that we think is ripe, the chart is what? What are we looking
It's
for?
very damp, so
Okay.
the vibration doesn't last very long.
Okay. Now, obviously, Marvin, we can't take this contraption out into the field. What do you see in the future that the producer would be using?
I think that with what we know now, that it would be reasonably straightforward to build a device that might have a pistol grip on it and an indicator that might give you a number from 1 to 10 that you could associate with ripeness, and you could walk out in the field and pull a trigger and take a reading. It wouldn't have any cables on it, completely battery powered.
Okay. And so like a 7 might mean that it's ripe and a 10 might mean it's overripe,
That's
something
correct.
like that.
That's correct.
Well, now, normally you test this one laying on your package here, but you have it really calibrated for peaches, and that's why we held it up. How do you use it for the peaches?
We've been running peaches this summer, and normally we have it strapped into a holder like this, and we can lay a peach on top and then initiate the thump
Okay.
and measure the vibration in a peach.
Okay. Well, Marvin, it's interesting to see what kind of research is going on at OSU. Let's try now a watermelon that Marvin has chosen that he thinks out of the three is going to be the ripest for. So we're going to cut into this one here and see what we can find out, see how well it works. So Marvin, here's the test. Let's see what we're going to find out. All right.
It looks
Picture
good.
perfect. And of course, this is one of our seedless ones as well. That one looks good enough to eat,
It
doesn't
looks great.
Well, Marvin, we have sure enjoyed it. And again, I hope you've enjoyed seeing some of the research going on at OSU for agriculture. And Marvin, keep us informed on how this progresses. What do you think? Maybe a year or two, it'll be out in the field if all things go well?
I think so. We have several manufacturers interested, and I think they'll be able to carry it into a commercial product in a couple of years.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Marvin.
Thanks, Steve.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.